Hi, everybody. This is the last Fireside Chat, the last actual event of WalletCon. We're going to have a couple of words from Pedro before we maybe all head downstairs for some drinks in a minute. But it's very much like last, but definitely not least. I've been very excited. So,
Me too.
Mostly because Michelle and I had a wonderful chat last night. And so I'm hoping
Over drinks.
Over a glass of
wine. It always
wine.
gets better over drinks.
We could have had a glass of wine.
I know.
Next time,
it's almost 5 p.m.
Next time I bring you on stage, I will have a bottle of wine here.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I'm really excited about this because one of the big trends I think that's happening right now is in the stablecoin space. We've just seen the first $1 billion acquisition of a crypto company, and that's to do with stablecoins. We have seen so much demand. On the panel a minute ago, we were talking about the Tether using stablecoins to buy oil. This is one of the spaces that, for me, crypto truly has product market fit right now. And so I'm really excited to dive into that. Michelle, I've spoken a lot for the last 30 seconds. Tell us who you are.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I know it's 4 p.m. and one of the last fireside chats, so I'll make this hopefully fruitful and exciting for most of you or some of you. So my name is Jeannie Lim. I'm based in Singapore and the executive director for Paxos running APAC in Singapore. But not new to cryptocurrency. I just joined 5 months ago, but previously I was at Meta. I ran Novi Wallet. I know it was such an exciting project at the time with Libra network and all. And unfortunately, during my days, it got deprecated. But hey, I'm here at Paxos running a whole new network, whole new distribution partner. So I'm very, very excited to share. Probably not details right now, but then over drinks. And then I have Tim, my product manager, who built this whole product. So yeah, kudos to him. A lot of sleepless nights. But yeah, happy to chat more.
And you had another really exciting announcement this week in Singapore. Yes. Tell us maybe a little bit more about that. Personally, I love it, and I'll tell you why, but let's hear what it is.
Sure. So you may have heard at Singapore FinTech Festival, we launched GDN. So it's Global Dollar Network, or USDG. The US basically is our new listing. So what does that mean? Because we have USDP, which is more of a US dollar-based stablecoin product. And then we also launched USDL, which is Live Dollar. That is a yield product mainly targeting for users in the emerging markets that don't have access to US dollar bank accounts or T-bills. And then we also have PaxG, which is truly digital gold. I'm actually personally very excited about that product. So anybody that cannot afford to buy a whole gold bar, we have PaxG, which is like a tokenized digital gold, which is amazing. And again, providing access to folks in the world that cannot afford the whole thing. And then most recently we had PYUSD, which is a PayPal US dollar stablecoin. And who knew that a traditional finance company would be interested in launching a stablecoin with us? So with the partnership with our help, we white labeled that product for them. We hit $1 billion market cap this year and a few months ago, and super excited for that. And now, GDN. So what does that mean? And what's the difference between all the other products and this one? So GDN or USDG, we decided to change the commercial economics for the whole ecosystem. And as you can see, our competitors like USDT, USDC, they're all great stablecoins. And the total volume today is about $170 billion if you think about it. So obviously there's a use case. But I'm pretty sure that majority of the revenue is pretty much kept by the issuer today with USDC and USDT. So what we decided to do is to do a little bit differently to basically bringing all our partners, like payments companies like Nuvei, Robinhood, Galaxy, you name it. Whoever wants to join us in the distribution partner network, we decided to share majority of our revenue back and distribute to our partners. For the fact that you are minting, burning, distributing, accepting, all along the ecosystem, basically we're going to be rewarding you. So that is the major difference between the new product and all the other products out there today.
That's awesome. I think it's awesome for a couple of reasons. Personally, I think that we have a ton of different assets, right? We've talked actually all day about fragmentation, about chain abstraction, about gas abstraction. I think like at some point somebody's going to need to do stablecoin abstraction because we'll have so many. And so what I really love about this is the main motivation for most people to launch their stablecoin is because they earn the yield, right? Like that's how every other stablecoin works. And so what I like about this is that I think it creates incentives for people to say, actually, I can get pretty much the same, if not, maybe it's marginally less, but like pretty much the same economics from like launching my own stablecoin as I can from participating in the global dollar network. Yeah. And I think that that's really important, not only because I think it solves this sort of fragmentation issue, and there are some technical solutions to that. Like maybe you could say it's fine to have 1,000 different stable coins in a chain abstracted world because we'll be able to use them all kind of interoperably. But I think the key difference is for the end user, for new consumers, it's going to become really confusing. Like, what is the difference between USDC? How are they going to kind of identify all of this? And so I love the idea that you've brought all of these partners together to launch USDG. So congratulations.
Thank you. And many more to come. So I think ever since we launched in the SFF, Singapore FinTech Festival last week, if for those of you who joined us, you would have seen the amount of buzz and excitement. The different partners now want to join us, whether it's asset managers, payments company, TradFi, or what I call traditional finance, traditional payments folks, wanted to get in now to join us because A, they don't know what it is, but they want to know how they can get in on the stablecoin project or pay in to disrupt the traditional Visa, MasterCards of the world. So I think that's a huge success for us.
Okay, this is where it gets spicy. You just said we're going to disrupt the Visa and MasterCard networks of the world. How are we going to do that and why?
So this is not a Paxos opinion. This is a Jeannie's opinion.
Don't
so I
quote
think so. The reason why I joined Paxos or joined the crypto firm away from a very comfortable lifestyle at Meta, Google, is because I truly believe that in the world of payments, and I've been in payments for a long time. I'm not going to age myself, but it's been a long time. I worked for WorldPays. I worked for First Data, and our key partners are the networks, what you call the regime of Visa, MasterCard, American Express. They're great. But at the same time, when I started my career in payments, I was a pricing analyst. When I studied interchange, and what that means is when Visa charges a fee to accept, for a merchant to accept debit card or a credit card, I couldn't understand why it's up to 3.5% for the merchant, right? So to me, it just logically, from a mathematics point of view, is if you are going to pay a merchant cash, debit card, which is directly coming out from your bank account, why should the merchant, your Amazons of the world, why do they have to pay 1.8 to 3.5%? Versus a credit card, which I understand the concept of is just borrowing money, but why? And why do Visa and MasterCard get majority of the revenue back into the pocket while the SMB, the small and medium businesses in the United States, Australia, and even worse, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, you're talking emerging markets, they don't get the most money in their pocket. And consumers have to suffer, right? Have to pay more for goods.
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that I love crypto so much, because when you take that and you're like, how can they charge that? Why do people pay that? The answer is trust, right? Like, people are prepared to pay that for convenience, because it means anybody out there with a Visa or a MasterCard can come. They're not, you're not trying to use many, many different payment methods. And then trust, because the money doesn't instantly make it from someone's bank account into the merchant's bank account, but the merchant says, actually, this is okay. I'm okay with the delay because I trust Visa and I trust MasterCard.
Absolutely. They trust the Visa, MasterCard, and they trust the bank that's funding them.
Correct. And this is the beauty of this technology that we have here, is it's trustless, right? Like, firstly, it's instantaneous. We can move money instantly. But secondly, we don't need a trusted third party. And so this whole concept of being able to extract 3% rent on a transaction should disappear.
Yeah,
and you're right. I think like that's what makes it so exciting because when businesses are operating on super thin margins, payments actually makes a wild difference. Like when I was operating in payments, we had this realization that we used to sort of like sell to the tech people in the room, like it's better technology, da da da. Actually, then you realize, sell to the CFO. Because if you're like, I can increase your payment acceptance by this much, or your pricing by this much, it makes a huge difference. And I think that we're about to see like wild disruption on that front here.
I totally agree. And I think, can I share the recent partnership with Stripe? So this is, and then Tim will know about this as well. So recent partnership with Stripe that actually made them buy Bridge, separate company. What they do is very different. So what we have learned with our Stripe partnership is we have like so much interest, and this is United States. We're testing in this in United States only. Even within a couple of months, we saw organic movement into the stablecoins pay-in. So meaning that all the gaming merchants, as an example, are telling the consumers, we want you to pay in with USDP. We don't even care if it's USDC, to be honest, because we're providing the platform to do that. And a lot of them have migrated, consumers have migrated onto to buy from the merchant for two reasons. A, from the merchant, they don't pay Visa, MasterCard interchange. It's like 1.8% for domestic. If it's international, it's like north of 3% from all these cross-border frickin' fees, right? Two, it basically taps into new users that domestic US merchants have never been able to tap because stablecoins are borderless, right? Yeah. Someone from Egypt or India, if they have a wallet and they want to basically buy from a US merchant, they can through Stripe.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I'm also really, side note, because I'm going to ask you another question in a second, but I also think that the payouts use case is really exciting because these are people who maybe don't have crypto today, but they also maybe struggle to get a bank account in some places. And so they're on creator platforms. They find it hard to get money off. Their $100 that they've made on a creator platform, by the time it makes them to their bank account in a cross-border way, is now like $74 or something because it's gone through the 3 different networks in 5 days, and it's a bank holiday, so they just can't get that cash. Like this is going to happen instantly, and I think it's super exciting.
Absolutely, and not only like if you think about a client, to your point, payout, right? In the United States, okay, ACH takes 2 to 3 days, right? In addition to the payment processor, they hold their yield and they take your money and they hold it for a few more days. Okay, maybe T+2. If you're talking to a merchant in Vietnam, that might take 21 days. And this is verified with a very credible source, one of the biggest retailer, I'm not going to name who. And that was our problem to solve. They came to us and say, Jeannie, can Paxos help me solve payout issues in this country? Because we have so many sellers, as you know. There's so many Vietnamese designers that go there and they want to sell their product to the world and they use this platform, but they don't get paid until 21 days later.
It's crazy.
It's crazy, yeah.
It's crazy. The question I'm going to ask you, though, is like, launching a stablecoin isn't easy, right? It's actually pretty challenging. Because there's this regulatory landscape out there. Where do you launch? How do you launch it? Who do you partner with? There's lots of things kind of behind the scenes. I'm curious, you obviously have operated in this part of the world for a very long time. Singapore has emerged as like a real hub for doing that. Can you share like some of those learnings about launching this in Singapore, why you chose there and how that's been?
Sure. So I have clients asking me, what's the difference between you and USDT? And I go, very simple. We're regulated. And he goes, what do you mean? What does that really mean? So I explained. I said, well, Paxos is not only regulated in New York DFS, which is very difficult license to get. When I was at Meta, Novi didn't used to get that. That was the whole reason why I got deprecated. Then we're also regulated at MAS because Chad, our founder, thought it's not enough just to focus in US. His goal of why he even wants to implement USDG was the fact that he wants to make it the global dollar. And if you truly want to be global, you can't just be regulated out of just New York DFS. So we looked outside and we thought MAS, Singapore regulatory environment is actually very crypto friendly and forward thinking. So had a conversation with them a couple years ago. We got it recently this year to launch Global Dollar Network. That's how we got it. And then previously, also this year, we launched USDL out of Abu Dhabi. So we got the friendly crypto regulators covered. But then we are basically regulatory first to basically tell our clients that protecting consumer funds is key to us. We do not want to be FTX. We don't want to be all the other like the Silicon Valley Bank. So we decided to diverse not only our governments, but also banking partnerships as well to ensure that if a bank collapses on one end, we're always going to have backup in terms of liquidity to do any kind of funding back to the consumers if anything happens.
And like this interaction, I think, is what's so important because if we're really going to onboard people, if we're really going to bring this technology to so many people, they really need to be able to trust it. And knowing that it's backed by some of the best regulators in the world, I think really helps support this feeling of trust. I'm going to change tack a little bit. Sure. We've been talking about user experience all day, and like stablecoins, I think, were one of the big challenges and one of the like big solutions to a user experience issue. Like I'm trading crypto, I don't want to go back into fiat and then back into crypto. I want to create something stable. So that's sort of actually where the origin of stable coins come from. If I fast forward like 3 or 4 years, what's the user experience around stablecoins going to be? Where are we going to see it? Where do you think that adoption is going to be fastest? What's exciting for you about the next couple of years in the stablecoin space?
I think I'm really looking forward for more of a unified experience like what your company is bringing to the table here. Because even as a consumer, even when I want to try to use different wallets to pay for different goods, I have trouble understanding like, okay, which one should I use? Which blockchain should I be cashing this in for? Like, what are the different gas fees? There's not enough of transparencies for that. So I'm really excited to basically increase the global adoption for stablecoins or even honestly other cryptocurrencies, not just with stablecoin. I just feel that stablecoins is like what I call as the Web 2.5, like the stepping stone for TradFis to be comfortable. It's like, okay, I don't know Bitcoin and I don't know Dogecoin, but I know USD, PLG in this case, and I'm okay with that because there's a fiat currency that's backed by it. And I think that will be the very important convergence. And along with better UX, UI for consumers and financial institutions to do the swaps, that will be, in my opinion, would be the real convergence between TradFi and DeFi.
I think it's really important. And I think we touched earlier on this, like, where do these two worlds meet? And how does that happen in a compliant way, in a secure way? But that doesn't create this like isolation of self-custodial worlds and like means that they can interact really smoothly. And I think it's really important to have people like Paxos working at the intersection of these two worlds and making sure that they really do interact really, really seamlessly.
Yeah, and I also think that education is the key, right? I mean, we started educating our own governments before we get regulated. They want to know what is stablecoins. How should they look at compliance? How should they look at KYC? Should they look at the traditional way of how banks look at it, or should they conform into new different ways? So Paxos actually is part of forming that stablecoin framework for MAS in Singapore. We sign up for it. So we always get questions by the government. It's like, what are you guys doing? What is this USDG? How are you going to provide governance, making sure that there's liquidity and the partners that you're working with are all compliant? So that's part of how I think Paxos is like, in my opinion, like the consultant and the educator between the both worlds.
Super important. We're coming near to the end. But so we've talked a little bit about like where we're going in the future. If you could change like one thing today, you had a magic wish, what would that be? What would that be within like the crypto world? What would you hope for?
Again, this is not Paxos advice.
She's going to say something good.
I believe in the DeFi world where money should be moved everywhere, cheap, in a cheap way, transparent and safe, without intermediaries intervening unnecessarily. So if I could change that immediately, that's where I would go for. I would sign up for the next wallet to move money around the world, trade crypto around the world, borderless, truly borderless. So that would be my wish.
I think it's a great wish. I think when I got off the plane in Bangkok here, I was telling Jeannie this last night, I saw this like infinite line of taxis and taxi drivers waiting, and there was no queue of people waiting for taxis. And on the other side, I saw 500 people waiting for a Grab. Yeah. And it was like the most stark scene of the fact that payments are like truly broken today because the demand and the supply like couldn't meet each other. And the reason that they couldn't meet each other is because of regulation, technology, education, appetite. And I think that like we're at this pivotal moment where if you as you say, if we can remove that, we can make it really, really easy to move money around, then I think we change the whole dynamic of how supply and demand around the world can operate with each other. And for me, that's incredibly exciting. So
I totally agree. And you know what? If I'm one of those taxi drivers, imagine if everyone is coming for DEF CON and the taxi driver goes, crypto wallet accept here. And I feel that line would change dramatically.
Like Derek, who was our CTO, said earlier, he's onboarding one taxi driver after the other using peanuts. And
let's do it.
Maybe we can all take up this mission to onboard more people to crypto.
Yeah.
Jeannie, thank you so much for joining us. There is going to be a USDG kind of workshop mini hackathon starting at 5, I think, up here. So stick around for that if you want to participate. You can also bring drinks from downstairs and come and listen to some of that as well. We have one more talk, I think. I'm going to hand over to Michelle. I'm not the MC. I'm going to let Michelle do her job. We've got one more talk. Please stick around. Also, the team is downstairs and will be downstairs later. So hang around. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jeannie.
Thank you. I hope everyone's trading crypto this week, by the way.